Hey guys, Andrei from ChromeFX Films here, and a good friend of mine, Eric Tershinsky, also known as Atiski Tutorials or Atiski, made a video about how he learned how to make video games, and he had a lot of his YouTubers asking him about that, which is why he made the video. I also have had a good bit of my subscribers asking me that same question, so I'm going to be doing a similar video here. So I'm going to get started then. I started developing video games. It's kind of a hard question to answer, where I started and just how I learned. I'm going to start from the very beginning, as far as back as I can remember. In 2007, I started using Autodesk's Maya, not 3ds Max, Maya. It was Maya 2008. So back when they were still using the dragon as their logo. And I used that for many years leading up. Still to this day I still use it, but as I'm naming the software, as I'm going throughout this video, just know that I am still using many of them today, and teaching them to others too. So I learned Maya in 2007, and if you don't know what Maya is, it is a 3D animation slash simulation slash physics engine. Just, it's fantastic. It's what not Pixar but DreamWorks uses, and Disney uses it for their films. If you saw Frozen, Frozen was animated in Maya, and it's a really powerful software and just great overall. It is very expensive, but Autodesk is good with students, and they like giving them licenses to do their own work with. So that was in 2007. 2 years later, my cousin, he was in high school at the time, he had to use Carnegie Mellon's Alice, which is a 3D game development engine made in Java. He had to use that to make a game, I guess like a final project for his high school, and he made this little kangaroo shooter where the player just walks around, just moves left and right. He has a gun, a revolver, and then he just clicks some fires, and then you have to hit a kangaroo, and then there's a little circle on the top. I think it might have been a hexagon. And every time you hit it, it loses a little piece of health, and I thought that was amazing. I played it, and it was just simply the coolest thing I've ever seen, and still to this day I still think that game is amazing. So I played that, and like I said, I was blown away, and I didn't understand how it was possible, and many years before, like I said, back in 2007 and ages before, back when I was 4 or 5, I used to watch my older brothers play Unreal Tournament, and that just blew me away too. I didn't understand how it was possible. I always wanted to look somewhere and I say, I want to go over that fence. I want to know what's beyond that. What's inside this building that I can't go inside of. I just like that freedom, that illusion of freedom. And in 2007, 2009, when my cousin showed me his game, that just opened up my mind a little bit to grasp the concept that it's possible, it can be done, and my cousin did it, and I wanted to know how to do it. So I asked him. I said, I want to make an open world game where you can walk around in the city and do whatever you want. Not like Grand Theft Auto. I didn't really know what that was at the time. I didn't care. I still to this day I don't play it. I think I played it once, and it's just disgusting. I wanted to make this open world game, and he looked at me. He just said, "That's going to take a lot of work." And I was like, "Challenge accepted. I can do it." Shortly afterwards, I found out don't do it. Don't try. It's impossible. To make something that scale in Alice too. It was a pain. I didn't know how to do things, and I taught myself over the next few years up until about 2013 when I stopped using it, or 2012 I stopped using it, because I started modding it. I knew the software so well that I started modding it with a couple users in the community, the Alice community. I went under the name of Jedi Action. Yeah, back in the day I was into Star Wars a lot, and there were a couple users like X2495, Artificial. There's a good bit of people that I used to communicate a lot with, and still to this day I like to keep in touch with some of them. And if you go on the forums, I'll put a link. You can see all the projects that I posted there. It was just dozens, and we were all working together, and it was the golden age of Alice. So that was so inspiring, just to see other projects that other people my age were doing, and college students and above, and that was really inspiring, like I said. So later in 2009, I was introduced to Counter-Strike Source and the Hammer Editor. When I learned what the Hammer Editor was, that just took everything I knew about game development to the next level. And I thought I knew so much when I was using Alice, and then I was just blown away again. I'm like, Hammer Editor, wow, you can change the shape of objects, like skew them, and it was so much. But in about 20, I sat down, and my cousin opened it up on his computer, and I mean, he had a custom built nice gaming computer, so it was running really nice speed, and I was able to work really quickly, because I like working fast and learning things as quick as I can. So in about 20 minutes, I built a castle, like literally a full castle, and I was working so fast because I was so into it, and I like teaching myself new software, so that was just so much fun. I spent, and our cousins, they don't live in Maryland. I'm located in Maryland, but they don't live here, so they live a few hours from here. So when we go visit them, it's usually for a weekend or a few days, and I spent most of my time there just on his computer using the Hammer Editor, because it was just the best thing I've ever seen. And then you could load in and walk around the maps and place AI spawn points and work with their pathfinding, and oh my gosh, it was really cool. So I used that for a long time, and the great thing about that is once I started using the Hammer Editor, I started getting into level design and learning how to texture things, and I started just understanding that concept of how a game really is made. That's when I really started understanding it. That was 2009, and in 2010 I started using a software, a program called GameMaker. Now you've probably heard of this if you're into game development, because that's really popular right now. I think they're up to GameMaker 8, maybe they have a 9, I'm not sure. I'm putting all the links to the software I'm talking about in the description below. Yeah, so I used GameMaker, and I made a good, probably a couple dozen games in that. And they weren't necessarily very impressive. I mean, if you're looking at professional projects now, it probably won't be that impressive. But at my age, I was just having so much fun with it, and I wasn't really making it to impress anybody. I was making it to just learn. And in 2011, by 2011, I had a couple dozen games in GameMaker, and I had over 200 games made in Alice. I just literally every day I would just make something new. That was my little cousin. They're staying with us for a couple days. So, like I said, I had over 200 projects, and each day, every day I would be on my computer, and just throughout the summers, this is mostly when I would be learning, I would just experiment by making new FPS shooters and this third person. I started doing artificial intelligence. Unfortunately, I stopped excelling in the artificial intelligence part, but I wish I could. I mean, I'm still doing it now. I guess I'll get to that. All right. So I was got a text. I don't check out this phone. Latest tech here. Next in line, oh yes, FPS Creator was the next software that I started using. It started around 2010, but in 2011 it wasn't so much learning new software, but learning how to make games. I was really focused on understanding just how the process worked. So FPS Creator, that really helped me just come up with the level designs and work out that. I got frustrated at FPS Creator because it had a certain level of, it had a creativity cap, I like to call it. it was limited. So you had a grid, you had a block grid that you were allowed to work with, but you couldn't really change the textures without, I mean, you technically you could, without a lot of work, you couldn't change the textures on walls. You couldn't really customize anything. It was very preset, so that kind of bugged me a little bit. I got FPS Creator X10 in 2011. That was a little bit better. I had a lot of nice graphical fidelity, and the lighting was fantastic, and it just allowed me to try new things visually. And I started experimenting with physics, like real-time physics and that, and then it all just led up to me in 2010, late 2010. My uncle introduced me to Unity. I didn't know what Unity was, and he was like, Unity 3D. I'm like, alright, cool, new game engine. It was Unity 2.6. I think they just came out with 2.6. And I tried it, and it was just mind-blowing. It was everything that I learned about game development just all over again, and it was just there. It had real-time physics, real-time particles, particle physics, real-time graphics. It just had everything. It was so great, and I started using their presets, playing around with that. I have some really some of my best memories are playing those games. I'm probably going to put a little video overlaying of what those games were. I mean, they just look awful now to compare to how much I've learned since then. But yeah, so I started using Unity, and I didn't really know how to use Unity, but I wanted to learn, so I looked up on YouTube. It wasn't popular at the time. I'm really happy for Unity now that it's getting so popular, but back when I was using it, when I first started, it was not popular. There was only a few tutorials. There was a YouTuber called TechZone TV, and he made an FPS tutorial, which I just soaked up every second of that, and just that's how I learned how to make FPS games. And then the Tornado Twins, which if you are a game developer and you're using Unity, you've probably heard of them. They are just the coolest guys ever. I watched their videos over and over again. I saw every single one of the tutorials. Still to this day, I like to keep in touch with them. I did a lot of business with them over game prefabs, and they're just cool guys. And that was a huge help to me, because I then learned how to code basic JavaScript. So I learned how to do menus, and then once I got bored of that, I would just have to try something new and try taking it up a level. And I started understanding the concepts of how functions work, and skip forward 3 years, I'm still using Unity. I do mobile development now. I map my games to controllers, so I hook it up to my TV. And then I will plug that into the laptop, and then I plug in a controller to the laptop so I can play on the big screen, and that is so much fun. Then I do web application, like web player games, and you've seen Night Shift and Dead Lab and Island Voyage and Code Black. Those are all going to be in the description. I was in a team called Moya Games for a while, working on a game called The Mooney Online. You may have heard of it. Unfortunately, the project fell apart and the team fell apart, but a lot of the team members that I worked with were still good contacts, and we collaborated on a couple of my games now. My newest one, called Elite Force. Some of the 3D models are made by a guy named Felix, who was a modeler in Moya Games, and he did a really good job. And it was just such a blast to work with him. Unfortunately, he's not doing 3D modeling anymore, but the models that I have from him, they're still being used in the game, and they're just making it so much better. So after 3 years, I finally started breaking out of that mindset of I'm not limited by what I know how to do. I'm limited by my creativity. And I had to get out of that box of I can't do this because I don't know how. When you're making a game, you can't be thinking about I'm not going to do that game because I don't know how to do it. Otherwise, you're never going to be revolutionary. You're not going to make anything new. You're not going to make anything particularly interesting. You have to try something new. You have to teach yourself to learn something new. So don't just stay there and be happy with, oh, okay, I'm going to make the same game, slight variation every time. Something like Call of Duty, for an example. Call of Duty 4 was great. That was one of my biggest inspirations. Red Faction Guerrilla, Command & Conquer Tiberium Wars, Call of Duty 4, and Unreal Tournament were probably my biggest inspirations. And unfortunately, Call of Duty now, it's not changing as much as I wish it would. But that's a good example for what I'm talking about. If you try something new, before you're a AAA company, or if you're ever working for one, when you're an indie developer, you have that freedom. You can lose that freedom very easily when you're signed on by a publisher, because they'll require you to do things and put things in your game that will make them the most money, not necessarily be the best game, because publishers are most interested in money, unfortunately, many of them. There's a couple like 2K that publish BioShock, who are good friends with Ken Levine, who really allowed them to Irrational Games to make something that was really risky, and they could have lost a lot of money, but so I definitely appreciate companies like 2K who definitely understand the value of creativity, and if you be creative while you're an indie developer and you just get in that mindset and don't limit yourself, if you show potential, in other companies, people are going to notice that. People are going to notice that you're different than everybody else. There are dozens and dozens of FPS games on YouTube right now. FPS games that were made in Unity, and a lot of them are very generic. I mean, I hate to say this, but a lot of them are just very generic, and there is not an ounce of creativity, originality, and it just frustrates me. And I know it frustrates other YouTubers as well. I know Eric Trushinsky, he made a comment about that in one of his videos too, so we're definitely on the same page in a lot of this. It's really unfortunate to see how many people don't want to be creative. So if you're watching this video and you're making games, just try and be different than everybody else. Do something that nobody else is doing, because people will notice you. Don't do it to be noticed, but do it because you want to be a good game developer. There's a lot of bad game developers out there. They're the ones that really don't know what they're doing, because if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you're not a good game developer. Don't do it for the money. Do it because you love to do it, and do it because you want to do something different, something that people will remember. And that's really the message of this video. Where I started, where I came from, starting just with 3D animation and Maya and just physics simulations. Now I'm just trying to do so many different things with mobile development, and I'm displaying Elite Force at a game convention in July, and it's just, I didn't do it so people would notice me. I guess that's like a side effect, that people actually looked at my games and said, hey, that's kind of cool. I didn't think that would happen. I was completely taken by surprise when Dead Lab took off and went viral, when PewDiePie played it, and I mean, I have over 300 gameplay videos of Dead Lab now, and it has over 100,000 downloads. I didn't make it for that reason, which is why it's so surprising. That I think if you're just true to yourself and you're as honest as you can be, if you're an honest game developer, people will notice that. And that's what I want you guys to take away from this video. Just be honest, be a good game developer. Do whatever you can, be different from everybody else, and it will make a difference. It will set you apart from everybody else, and in the future, it will make you successful in one way or another. Maybe not the way that you hope for, but it will pay off someday. So thanks guys for watching, and I really hope you liked this video. If you learned something from it, I hope that everything I'm talking about is just encouraging you. I'm just trying to encourage you to keep going with game development. The industry is changing so fast, but just keep doing what you're doing. And if you're not a game developer and you want to get into it, just all the software that I listed below, you can jump right into it. All of it is free, except FPS Creator is not, but Game Maker's free and Alice is free. I recommend just starting with those. It's great, and if you just keep doing it and doing what you love, eventually, before you even know it, it will start paying off, and you'll notice that you know how to make a game. Yeah, so again, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.